All right. We are, let me just make sure. We are live. Hey, everyone. Welcome to Source It Up. Today, I have a special guest, 10K on the Bay. We're talking about, we're going to talk about listing processes. So last week on Chris's channel, we were talking about warehouse goals, right? And the goals that we have for our businesses. And this week, we want to talk about more specifically the listing procedures and processes that we want to achieve and that we have achieved in order to get those goals. So, Chris, it's great to have you here, man. We've come a long way. It's been a whole year since we've met, and if you guys didn't know, I'm Chris's Patreon group in the mastermind, and he's helped me grow so much. And now I'm ready to jump on YouTube and share my journey. So, Chris, just a recap: what are your goals as far as listing and your revenue goals on a monthly or a yearly, however you want to share that? But
what's going on, guys? It's Chris, 10K on the Bay. Thanks for joining me on Frank's channel. I'm at eBay right now. We're just discussing hopefully some new features or some new things that eBay wants to launch for us. They are making a lot of awesome changes, so I'll keep you in the loop as long as I'm able to. So just to recap on my goals, for me, I would like to list 500 items per week at $20 profit. So my goal is to list $10,000 worth of profit each week and also fulfill the identical products with my eBay store. So I like to run a tight ship where 2,000 go in and 2,000 go out every week. And that's my specific goal for eBay. What about you, Frank?
So last week I was sharing how I wanted to push myself and my employees every single month. So last month we successfully listed 50K worth of items. This month I want to list 60K, next month 70K, and so on and so forth. And so what that amounts to is 5 days a week. Last month our goal was 3,000 a day listed on both eBay and Amazon. And this month it's 3,500 a day. And next month it's 4,000 and 4,500 and so on and so forth. So, and right now we're listing between 60 and 80 items on eBay every day. And we do multiple categories, all one-off items from thrift stores, garage sales, estate sales, online arbitrage, retail arbitrage, a couple replenishables mixed in there. But for the most part, I really want to, as far as a goal, I want to increase that and literally figure out what the max capacity is, and and also keep an open mind. Do I need to change, how we take photos? Do I need to change and get a VA for this specific thing? Do we need to ship differently? So we talked about a lot of those goals last week, and so that's really what I want to be doing. So Chris, as far as listing, what do you think is, you've obviously grown and progressed so much over the past year. What, as far as, let's stick to listing real quick. When did you start batching? Was it from the beginning, and explain what batching is, and just talk about a little bit about that?
Sure. Just to put into perspective, you're talking about the listed amount. So my goal is actually to list on the $10,000 profit. I'm looking for $30,000 a week listed, right? And $10,000 of that would be profit. So I'm aiming for. Hold on one second, Frank. I'm at eBay right now, and they're still going to ask me another question. So why don't you hop in with your listing process first, and then I'll hop in right after.
Sure. Take your time. Yeah, and sorry we were a little late because Chris is at eBay and anyway. So, okay. So what I started separating listing into batches, for instance, doing photos separately, then doing listing separately, then doing storage, then picking, and then shipping, right? If I separated those for myself, then I hired a VA to help us list. I have an employee that helps us take photos. I have an employee that researches prices, makes the titles, puts things into storage. I have another guy who, in the morning, he picks everything. I have another guy. I mean, I only have 3 full-time employees, but they all have different responsibilities as far as photo taking, listing, picking, shipping, and we all, have figured out where we all fit in. And so separating those and doing those in batches is a lot better, because at the end of the day, if you want to make, let's say, $20,000 in sales a month, you have to list $20,000 worth of stuff. So if that's the goal, and then you batch things, now you can focus on, instead of saying, I just want to list faster, like that sounds like very overwhelming. It's like, well, where do I start? Right. But if you're like, okay, I want to take photos faster, you can focus on that. And if you can take, instead of taking, let's say 30 item photos per hour, let's say you increase that to 40. Now you've increased the speed at which you list on eBay. And then let's say you go over to the listing, and you can figure out a way to research prices faster, or come up with a price beforehand and just figure that out. And then now, instead of listing 10 per hour, you can list 12 per hour. And you slowly work on all these different processes, because you've separated everything into separate responsibilities and disciplines. Now you could increase the speed at which you list items, and also outsource specific tasks because you've separated them. So, Chris, you back?
Right, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, great. So, no, this is a great system, or a great conversation, because I started with batching, which was, I do all my photographs at once, all my drafting at once, and I hired multiple people to do one project, and I basically hodgepodge all the information together at the end and launch the listing. And for me, for 500 listings a week is the goal. That's really about one full-time photographer taking 100 items a day, and one lister doing 100 items a day. And I was able to do 1,000 listings in 1 week, with my photographer cranking out 1,000 and a VA cranking out the 200 listings per night. And it was roughly actually 1,000 over the course of 7 days, but because VAs sometimes work 6 days a week. It depends on what country you're working with. But for me, I like lean. So lean methodology is not batching. It's when you do things one at a time. Now, the thing is, with lean, it's difficult because you've got to have the really clean, streamlined process in order to do it versus batching. And I do think that batching is faster. Okay, so because I was easily able to do 1,000 listings with just one photographer and one VA. Photographer just cranking, and the last photo was the item specifics and the item location for people to figure out. But now I prefer listing in tandem. So what I do is I build the listing, I sell similar, it'll predict item specifics, I'll put the price in, I'll build the title, write the description, while my photographer is taking the photos. Then I'll save on my computer and start working on the next one. What he'll do is he'll open the drafts on the mobile app, enter the photos in. While there's a little bit of latency, 30 seconds to a minute for the photos to load, he's prepackaging the item, loading it on there. He's correcting any defects or something right there, and he's launching directly from the mobile app. So this is my new process right now, and we do about 50 every 4 to 5 hours. So it's about 10 to 12 items an hour, right? And I'm trying to do that once or twice a day. So on the low end, I'm doing 250 listings a week. On the high end, it's 500. But that's just one person and me working, pretty much full time on the tandem process. Once I get that part cleaned up, I'm going to hire someone to replace me as the drafter person. And the reason why I'm doing it myself and not somebody else is I have added Poshmark as a secondary platform to sell on. So the cross-promoting, I'm learning right now how to do that. And so once I learn how to do it, I will hire someone to cross-list on Poshmark and eBay, and that will add another 2 minutes to the process. So now we're talking realistically with 2 people, 75 to 80 listings a day, which is still good. But I'm not sure. I've been talking to my photographer on how we could do it with just 2 people, 100 listings a day. But it's pretty challenging when you also have to do Poshmark.
Right, right. So, really quick though, I'm very curious on how your sell-through rate has been because everything's cross-listed, right? You're not listing just on Poshmark.
Yep.
So, for the items that you are cross-listing, how has that increased? Let's say your sell-through rate was 25% or 20%, which I think is what it is. Now, what did that go to with Poshmark added?
So as an example, with the Loki Husky store, my sell-through rate's it's around 15% per month. And my sell-through rate with Poshmark the first month was also 15% separately. So this is the first month I sold a third of my inventory. And but that being said, I didn't have my entire listings on Poshmark. I only had 240 listings posted, right? And a lot of those items sold on eBay before they had a chance to sell on Poshmark. So I had 32 sales on Poshmark in my first 30 days, which is amazing. That's more than one a day. Fantastic, especially since most of the month I had less than 100 listings. So I was selling one or two a day with 100 listings, which is awesome. I had a one day with 4 sales, and it's actually great because Poshmark is very fashion centric. So what that means is not everything will sell. I have not sold a single pair of jeans, which blows my mind because you would think that jeans would be a staple piece of people's wardrobes, but there's just so much of it already. It's already flooded. So in that case, even though you're going to get a great price for it, it's because the price sensitivity is less on Poshmark. Things hold their pricing much better because they have, and I wanted to hear your opinion on this, Frank. They force you to put in an accurate MSRP when you list the item because they know that items will sell for about 50 to 60% of MSRP pre-owned. That's a strong price. So if you inflate your MSRP to 200 or 500 on an item that's only $50 MSRP, your markdown will look strange to the algorithm, and they'll know that you made up a sale because they have all the data be in the back end. So they're encouraging people to put a real MSRP on their item, which I think is absolutely phenomenal because when you have a real MSRP, now you're talking about Amazon style. Amazon is a true MSRP of the product so that you get an idea. On eBay, what really worries me is that the markdown manager tool is a markdown off of a price you make up. It's not based on the actual MSRP. So let's say it's something is $100. You're running a 15% off sale, and you have 50 to make it 35. That's really 65% off MSRP. But people don't know that, and I feel like there's a huge disservice to the eBay buyer. And so this is one of the reasons why eBay prices are so low because no one can believe the MSRP.
Right, right. That's interesting. How that? Well, I don't want this to turn into a Poshmark show, but I'm like, how would you? How do you figure out the MSRP if you have no idea? Because I'm
No,
new to
you try to
clothing, and
you try to accurately guess.
oh, okay, okay,
You know, like on a pair of jeans, you're not going to put 250 marked down to 20 for a Gap because those are $20
right,
MSRP. And if you put it in and it recognizes, hey, look, jerk, Gap's jeans are not $250. We're going to push your listing to the bottom because you're just making up BS pricing. They know. So I think it's a good idea. It's just a barometer. But the thing is, customers want that discount. When I go to Marshall's or I go to the mall, the strike-through price is the MSRP. The strike-through price is not some made-up number. That's the actual suggested price, and the markdown causes me to buy it or not.
right, right, right.
So I
Okay.
want to ask you, how could you enter in your process the MSRP? Because right now I'm stumped. I don't know where to put that in the process, but I know that that helps.
Oh, the actual original price. Well, the thing is, with what I'm dealing with a lot of toys and vintage toys, older toys, and the MSRP. Something could be of like there's, for instance, there's a pack of Magic cards that sold in 1994 for $9, and now it's worth like $10,000, right? So with clothing, like there's certain things like Tommy stuff from the 90s was sold for one price, and now some of that's worth more now, right? That's a lot of collectibles are worth a lot more now. So MSRP, I mean, it's and now that I'm just getting into clothing, I'm not really. I did buy a couple brand new with tags clothing lots, and I
Yep.
figured I can get at least 20 to 30%. And actually, it really depends on the brand. Some brands you can get 50 to 75% MSRP. Some brands you can barely get 10%. you know? So.
And this is a really good point because MSRP, in my opinion, is okay, I'm sorry, not MSRP, market. So whatever the market is for an item, let's say it's the market is $50 for a pair of New Balance shoes. They sell for around $50 on eBay. I think that the MSRP needs to be 100 on eBay for people to care. So if you're selling a vintage guitar, right, and full market price at a retail store, if you walk into a guitar shop and it's $5,000, I really want to pay $2,700, $3,000 on eBay for it. I'm looking for a deal. People are on eBay to look for a deal. So I think it's so important for the buyer experience to see that strike through, even if it's fake. But it has to be realistic. You can't put 100,000 marked down to 10, because then people will be like, "This is such BS."
Right. So let's jump a little bit over to pricing, right? Pricing on eBay. How, like, let me just share real quick how I share prices, how I figure out prices. So it really depends from product to product. We do research most of all of our prices. And the one way I'm trying to speed that up is have the pricing on the item before it's even listed. And a lot of items we're getting there with it. It requires a little more time up front, but it saves the lister who didn't source the item, who doesn't, maybe never saw the item before, from like learning that product and figuring out the price for it. Whereas the person who sources it knows it's worth something, and it would be much easier for him to figure out the exact price of what that should be priced for. I'm also trying to play around with flat pricing, like, okay, all of this particular item is $5 with $3 shipping, and just throw it all up. It's all the same type of item, like for instance, DVDs or something. So going back, we basically look at the sell-through rate. We don't look at sold listings. We look at completed listings and see how many are black and how many are green, right? So green is sold, black means it didn't sell. And let's say there's an item where there's 10 black and 1 green, and it's all for like $40. If we had that item, I'd be like, okay, we have it. Let's just list it for $15 or $20 plus shipping. And let's say we got it for $2 or $3, right? So I'm not going to list that at $40 because that's a 10% sell-through rate. I'm not looking to move this thing in 2 years, maybe. I'm looking to move it quick. So I'm going to list it for $15 to $20 and then see where it goes from there. On the flip side, if there's an item there, all of them are $40 or $50 and everything's green, I'm going to list it right up there with everybody else. So that's kind of how we do our pricing. And we do spend a little extra time doing the research, and I'm trying to figure out better ways to do the price. But at the end of the day, if things aren't selling in your store, you either bought the wrong thing or you're pricing it at the wrong price. So that's really the only two things that could prevent something in your store from selling.
I really like your strategy. I want to change to if it doesn't meet my model. So, for example, I would like to make $20 profit on an item. Okay, and I've decided that I'm willing to wait 3 to 5 months for that to happen on the item. Provided I spend $20 or less, I can wait 5 months to double my money. Now, here's the other thing. If the item does not yield that type of profit, then I want it gone almost as soon as possible. Like, I want to have my listers at capacity listing as much stuff, but, for example, I'm buying something for 10. If you, like you said, the greens were at 28. Okay, so, and I'm buying it for 10. And I know, okay, I'm not going to get my $20 profit. I can't. It's only selling for $18 more gross, right? So what I would do, I might buy 5 of them and list it at 16 and just do a multiple quantity. It's going to power through quick because I know it sells, I could maybe wait and get 18, right, up there, like what you were just mentioning right now if the market is thick. But if the profit amount is too low, I want to blow those out and then just try to get into an item where I buy for 20, wait for 60, and net my 20. And I'm very seriously considering free shipping, and I haven't considered free shipping in a long time.
Yeah, shipping is another thing. Let's get into that next. So real quick before we do, with the pricing, I'm not looking for like profit as far as a specific number. I'm looking for ROI. And so, but at the same time, I believe, and tell me if what you think about this, because I'm very curious what you think. When we buy something, we buy it always in mind we want to 5x our money. If we spend $5, we want to make at least $25 gross, right? And if we spend $10, I want at least $50 back gross. And sometimes we get there, sometimes it's 40. And when I source and when my other guy sources, it also depends on the sell-through rate. Like if we're buying a Nintendo Wii, that sells a lot faster, right? Or a TI-89 calculator, those will fly off the shelf. So if we've got to spend 10 to make 25, I'll do that because it just sells really fast, right? And I think, you know, even with retail arbitrage are brand new with tags items, and especially with replenishables, these are the types of things that, you know, I really like your strategy, but I'm also curious on what you think about just strictly sticking to ROI.
I'm
Yeah.
okay with ROI doubling my money plus $3 because it costs me about $2 to list an item using somebody else. But I also want to add in an extra dollar for good measure because I'd like to consider. I try to make it more difficult for myself to list an item. I mean, to buy a cheaper item, and force myself to be more creative and find more expensive stuff. And I do have a friend who adds $5 to the cost for just the storage, listing, photography, drafting.
I like that.
It doesn't cost $5, but he adds $5 to force himself to learn more expensive categories. And so, same thing. I think if you at least double your money, you're okay. If you're just starting, maybe you want to be more picky and look for a high ROI. But for me, I'd rather you start moving some volume to get an idea of what you like, what you don't like. Because in the beginning, how can you really say to somebody, just start with home runs? And they don't know how to do that.
Right. You got to start somewhere. And again, it's like list everything in your house and you'll see what sells and what doesn't. And when when I go up sometimes to like my brother and my parents, and I'm like, I just sold this little gadget for $250, and they're like, what? And then they think that's crazy, right? But if I showed you that, you would maybe know that, oh wow, that's that particular thing. So yeah, it's a big learning curve. And one real quick tip before we move into shipping and how that whole thing. When you price something, you also gotta figure the shipping as well. So let's say 5 things sold for $15 and one thing didn't sell, and that's $15, but all of the other ones were free shipping, and the one that didn't sell had $6 extra shipping. So, and also when you're looking at a price, you got to count the shipping into the price. So if something sold for $30 of free shipping and something else sold for $20 with $6 shipping, you got to look at it as $30 and $26 when you're pricing it. So you don't want to accidentally sell something too cheap, and then you also don't want to list something too expensive because, oh wow, that sold for $28, but it had free shipping. You can't sell it for $28 plus whatever $10 shipping. It won't sell. So you got to be very careful with that. And that was something that even the guy I have now listing, like I had it took a little while to like get that down pat. So hopefully that helps somebody, because I know that that was an issue. So with listing and pricing.
Well, that's great. Yeah, pricing is definitely a sticking point. But I like the idea of sticking to a minimum ROI and staying with that. And I would rather you err on the side of, I'm going to go on a limb here and say I'm okay with you sourcing 5 or 10% above your capacity. You know, I don't want you to have, if you have 1,000 items in stock, more than 100 unlisted items, but maybe even less. So like 5 to 10% over. But I'm going to say that instead of 5 to 10% under, just in the beginning. As you start to get better and you learn your niches, then I definitely recommend niching down and focusing and getting one niche to $100 first, because then it gives you some breathing room. But in the beginning, I'm actually going to go on a limb here and say that you should buy a little bit too much so you can learn.
Absolutely. You know, God bless you. That's my wife.
Bless you.
God bless you. It always comes in pairs. So yeah, and that's a great point, because when you're learning a new category, buy something, and because a lot of times you can't do proper research on your phone sometimes, and it's really great to sit down with a couple things and like look on the computer and do some research. But enough on the pricing and stuff. Let's talk about shipping, because shipping is another big thing that will either prevent your item from selling or will help your item sell better than anybody else and your whole store performing better. So I've played around with free shipping, and now I'm right now currently at flat rate shipping. But we have like 10 different levels between medium L, first class, and priority. We have 2 different medium L's, 2 different first class, and 3 different priority. And we have calculated if it's even more heavy than that, because we sell in so many different categories. So as far as the sell-through rate, honestly, I feel like things sell faster with a little bit of shipping added onto it. For some, I don't know what the reasoning is. I know you love the store Shop Material World, and I looked at it, and they have a ridiculous sell-through rate, and they don't have $2.99, they have $3. They don't have $29.99, they have $30, and their shipping isn't $9.99, it's $10. So I really feel like psychologically, when you look at something that's $9.99 plus $4.99 shipping, rather than looking at something that's $10 plus $5 shipping, I feel like it's easier to figure out, okay, that's $15, and maybe that looks even cleaner or something. I don't know what it is, but I'm actually have really good success with that. So why are you considering free shipping, and maybe share a little bit about your whole shipping process?
I'm considering free shipping because I'd like to streamline speed. Like, I'm thinking about the extra few seconds it takes to weigh an item, pre-package an item. So I almost want to buy all items that fit in the padded flat rate envelope, right? And so that basically eliminates shirts, because shirts, they're lighter than that. So I want to find a parcel that is just for speed. And for certain items, I want to be a certain price. Let me give you an example of, let's say, some Levi's kids jeans. Let's say for $40 brand new, and I know from retail that at $50 to $60 it's going to sell fast, right? So what I'm going to do is, okay, I might buy as many jeans as I can because they fit into a flat rate envelope, right, which I know is going to be $7, and that way I don't need to weigh the item. I don't need a package description. I can just do anything as long as it fits in that PEB flat rate in that shipping policy. It's going to ship. And I just think that shipping time is so under thought about. People will say, "Oh, I sold a vintage drum set for $800, and it cost $150 to ship it, and they bought it for $50, and then they spent 6 hours packaging it so it wouldn't break." To me, that's a loss. You want to think about streamlining shipping. Okay, I'm going to go crazy here and say that I would like to, in the future, never ship anything in a box. 100% poly mailer. It just saves space in my space. What do you think?
No, I like that a lot. And the thing that was brought to mind when you were talking about that is, what do you have available to you locally around you, right? Do you have this awesome connection where you can get like unlimited amount of shirts or jeans or toys? Or for me, I have some awesome thrift stores locally to me that I can have this awesome route, and in order to keep numbers high and inventory high, if I just sourced in certain categories, it gets dried up quick, and that's the whole thing. Like, I would really, to keep the momentum going in my business, I have to continue doing and selling in all the categories I do. But I am refining a lot of things as far as, okay, I am considering shipping time, and I didn't consider it until one of my guys went on vacation for 2 weeks, and I was shipping every day, and I haven't done it in I think a year. So when I did it again, I'm like, wow, some of this stuff, we made $10 on it, and it's taken me 5, 6, 10 minutes to ship. this is not acceptable, you know? And so it really got me thinking, and this was like 2 or 3 months ago. And I'm like, okay. And I really started cutting things out. That we shipped a pair of skis out, and I had the guy time himself, and it took him 20 minutes to pack them, but it was $100 profit. And I'm like, okay. And I'm paying somebody else to do that. So I'm like, okay, that's acceptable. If we did that all day, every day, shipping out $100 item every 20 minutes, that's $300 shipped an hour. And, so I'm like, I'm okay with that, but you got to figure that out. I love, Scavenger Life. They ship out all these crazy eclectic, glass things, and they spend a lot of time shipping it. Craigslist Hunter, same thing. He's shipping out these really heavy, expensive, vintage electronics, and you gotta figure out how to ship those things, and it takes time shipping. So I really like that idea, but also some people, if you're just starting out, it would be a great rule to set that up from the start. I've kind of put myself in a position where, I have to be very careful on what I cut out of the business because I got to keep the momentum going. And I already know, okay, we're selling VCRs. If I cut that out, maybe that's 5% of our business or 10%. You know what I'm saying? So I love that. And I do think that, how we're talking about batching things and separating responsibilities. And I had one of my guys sit with me, and we timed how much time it took to ship something in a bubble mailer. Just pop it in, print the label out, pop it on, and then how much time it took something to ship it in a box, and then how much time it took me. And then we went to him, and I timed him, and we were just, it wasn't like a competition, but it was like, okay, this is kind of my expectations, and this is how fast I would like you to get, and I'm learning as well. So I would say that if you're shipping a lot of a similar item, I would say it's worth your time to research and get the perfect box for it or the perfect poly mailer for it. Take advantage of the flat rate padded mailers. If you're sourcing something wholesale and doing it replenishable on eBay, same exact thing. Consider shipping, because that is something that can come back and haunt you later. So anyway, that was a big mouthful, but I'll throw it back to you, Chris.
All right, so this is my thoughts. I'm a lot more opinionated these days. I feel like I have more opinions on how I think things should go now. So one thing I think that a lot of businesses are built on is speed. So for every company I see that has huge home runs, like, oh, I only sell $100 plus items or $50 plus items, there are tons of stores that do crazy volume, and everything is fast. They order 100 of the identical item and sell them all out. That's really fast. One listing, the sell-through keeps going through. That's a replenishable item. Those are going to really, really help you bulk up your business because of speed. That's the key. Sourcing-wise, finding the home run item, there's not going to be ROI like that. Finding something for $1 and selling it for 100, there's so few items like that in relation to time. When you're sitting at home ordering thousands of things at a small margin, you're just thinking about time. Time per hour sourced, right? So if you spend an hour buying 100 things online for $10 profit, that's $1,000 profit. If you go out and find a rare painting for 100 and sell it for 1,100 and you net 1,000, that's the same. One item versus 1,000 items or 100 items, you just got to look at your time. What's faster in your area? Write down what the sources are in your area and start ranking them. Keep track of what does well for you. But again, I just think that so many companies are built really well on speed. So one tip I want to give for you guys is to create an artificial constraint on time. If you want to learn how to do something better, give yourself less time. You only just instead of doing it in 4 hours, do it in 3 hours and see if you can. Your creative juices will start flowing. And I know, Frank, you're always looking at ways to make things faster.
Yeah, absolutely. For instance, I'm actually talking to a programmer right now on Upwork because I want to dump files into Google Drive and have it automatically take the links to the direct image files and pop it in a spreadsheet. And so let's say because I want to use the bulk uploader, you know, the spreadsheets. I forgot the file uploader for eBay. I've done it before, and I want to really do that again, because if you just set up your spreadsheet, right? For instance, I want to do Pokemon cards. Every card has 2 photos, front and back, right? I throw it through the scanner. If I just take those photos and dump it in a folder, I could literally just write all the titles out and the prices very quickly and upload that whole file, and everything's listed right there, right? Now, but the only thing is now the file name of the image has to go in all of those, you know, next to each photo. So I'm trying to figure out a way to automate taking files from Google Drive and automatically putting every 2 files on separate lines. If I could figure that out, I might move over to do that with hard goods. And for each of the shipping policies I have, make a different spreadsheet. And then the only thing we would have to have now is, because you need to, every category has a number, and I would just need a cheat sheet with the category numbers. And or you could just batch it, be like, okay, here's all the shirts, men's shirts, here's all women's shirts, here's all vinyls, here's all the DVDs, and do them on separate sheets because all the category numbers are the same. I know this, if you've never looked into it before and you know how to use spreadsheets, the only thing I would say is the documentation for this is about it's something like 60 pages long. So you got to use like Command F if you're looking for anything on there. Other than that, there's really no good information out there. But that's just one way that I'm trying to list faster. And you know, I think I love what you were saying about reducing the amount of time, because at the end of the day, if you want to make $10,000 a month, and let's say, you know, you need $30,000 in sales to do that, you have to, and you want to work 5 days a week, you have to, or let's just say 7 days a week, because that would make it easier for math. You have to find $1,000 worth of product every day for 30 days to list, right? If you're not, so you got to look at sourcing. If you want to make that, you got to source that. If you want to make that, you also got to list that much. And if you only have, let's say you're doing this part-time, you have 3-4 hours a day, you got to figure out how to source, list, and ship $1,000 in 3 hours every day. And so I think that boiling it down to those time constraints and like realistically putting your goals and mapping it out per month will really help you to visualize, okay, this is what I got to work on. Now, okay, great, I got a source. Now I got to figure out how to list this all in 1 hour. And then now, oh, wow, oh, these are starting to sell. How am I going to ship these in that same 3 hours? So what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it's all about improving. And just also one more thing, guys. Frank and I can list an item roughly 2 to 3 minutes, maybe 1 minute, 1 to 3 minutes. Even 5 minutes is fine. You don't need to be that fast. Okay, eventually you just need to list a certain amount of items each day. You don't have to be in a hurry. You don't have to do it faster. You can take your time. The ability to list $1 million worth a year has been proven by somebody that we both talked to, Tech and Sports, manually lists $1 million by himself, one person per year. He just does around 5 to 7 hours of actual working per day. So it comes down to, no matter how fast that you're doing things, you still need to put the work in. And this is my final, like, on the edge point tonight, which is, I'm not going to even say that work is hard, okay, because everyone can do it. Most people can list an item on eBay, but there is a finite amount of work that goes into each listing. Okay, the skill, there's a huge amount of skill in sourcing. Okay, that's the basis of this show. Source it up. Sourcing, there is a massive difference in skill. But as far as the listing, just list good enough. You don't need to make that process insanely perfect.
Absolutely, man. And I think you struck a chord, because at the end of the day, it's about consistency, right? It's waking up, and let's say you want to get healthy, you want to get in shape. You got to wake up, and some days you may feel like eating healthy and working out, and some days you may wake up and you don't want to do it. And it's the same thing with eBay. You just got to be consistent. And if you're, you know, sourcing, I think nobody, especially with thrift stores and garage sales, if you're into that, that is usually never a problem. We always want to get up and source. And that's why everybody has death piles. But the problem is being consistent and disciplined and actually getting your products up. And then once you have that down, then you can look and work and focus on maybe the different processes, maybe upgrading lighting or figuring out a faster way to take photos and stuff like that. And that's just like where I'm at in my business. That's why I'm emphasizing that. But, you know, I really think at the end of the day, consistency is and execution is the most important thing in eBay business and in any business.
Absolutely. Consistency is everything. You are what you do every day, not what you do sometimes.
All right. So why don't we end it there? Thank you guys so much for watching this. I hope this was helpful. Any final words, Chris?
No, that's it. If you guys want to reach me, you can find me at 10K on the Bay, or you can leave a comment below. Frank and I will get back to you. So thank you guys so much for spending some time with us.
Absolutely. All right, guys. Catch you later.